The president of our local HOA decided she was going to destroy my livelihood. She figured she could burn my entire wheat field to the ground right before harvest and get away with it. To her, my family's farm was just a dirty little stain on her perfect suburban paradise. But she made one huge mistake. She didn't check the weather. In the blink of an eye, a shift in the wind turned her little act of arson into a raging firestorm of karma, and it was headed directly for her own $1 million house. If you enjoy stories about bullies getting what's coming to them and the sweet taste of justice, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss this. My family has worked this land for generations. This isn't just a business for us. It's our heritage, written in soil and sweat. Our lives are dictated by the seasons, from the first thaw of spring when we break ground, to the golden days of late summer when the wheat stands high and ready. And that wheat isn't just a crop. It's tuition for my kids. It's the mortgage on the old farmhouse my great-grandfather built with his own two hands. It's the promise we keep to the folks who came before us. For decades, we lived in peace. The town grew up around us, new neighborhoods popping up, but the farm was always here. We were a constant, a reminder of where this area came from. We had legally binding, ironclad agricultural easements that were older than every single one of those new houses, guaranteeing our right to farm our land. It was all on paper, filed with the county. I thought it was indisputable. I was wrong. The trouble started quietly, but it grew into a roar. It all began with a new development, Golden Meadow Estates, a bunch of sprawling, cookie-cutter mansions that backed right up to my property line. And with that new development came a new Homeowners Association, run by a woman who seemed to be made of pure, uncut entitlement. Her name was Delilah Prescott. To Delilah, our farm wasn't a legacy. It was an eyesore. It was a threat to her carefully managed property values. Within 6 months of her becoming HOA president, the complaint letters started showing up. First, it was the noise. My John Deere tractor, the same one I'd been using for 15 years, was suddenly an acoustic disturbance. Then, it was the dust. We're a farm. We work with dirt. For 100 years, dust has been part of the job. But to Delilah, it was an airborne contaminant, dirtying her pristine patios. Then she came after our water. Our water rights are as old as the farm itself, but she claimed our sprinklers were causing unauthorized water intrusion. Every complaint was designed not to solve a problem, but to create one for me. She was trying to bleed me dry, hoping I'd give up and sell the land she wanted so badly. I'm a reasonable guy. I tried talking to her. I went to an HOA meeting, my worn work boots sticking out in a sea of loafers and designer heels. I brought my maps, my deeds, my legal easements. I calmly explained that the farm was here first, and our operations were protected by law. Delilah just watched me with a smirk. When I was done, she didn't even acknowledge my points. She just said, "Mr. Jensen, your legacy is hurting our investments. The board's position is that you need to conform to the community's standards. This isn't the 1920s. Adapt, or face the consequences." The room of new homeowners actually applauded her. They'd bought the fantasy of country living without any of the country reality, and I was the reality they wanted gone. I walked out of that meeting knowing this wasn't a disagreement anymore. This was war. That's when she really escalated things. Letters and complaints weren't working, so she went for direct action. Our farm has a main access road that connects our barns to the county highway. It's the artery of our whole operation, the path our heavy equipment has to take, and it's specified in our legal easement. One Tuesday morning, drove down to find my way completely blocked. Overnight, a line of massive, decorative boulders had been dropped across the entire road. It was a clear declaration of war. I couldn't get my harvester through. I couldn't get grain trucks in or out. She had choked off my entire operation. I called the sheriff. When the deputy showed up, Delilah was waiting, holding a folder and looking triumphant. She showed him what she called a work order for beautification, but my father taught me to document everything. I went back to the house and got my own file, the original county stamped easement from 1958, and satellite photos from the county assessor clearly showing the road was my access. The deputy took one look at my official documents and then at her flimsy, unsigned piece of paper. He told her she had 24 hours to move the boulders, or she'd be charged with obstruction. She was furious. Her plan had backfired, but it just made her dig in her heels. The boulders were gone the next day, but the harassment got worse. The HOA, using its war chest of resident FEs, launched a full-blown legal assault. They petitioned the city to force me to build a massive, expensive wall to hide the farm from their view. They tried to get noise ordinances changed to specifically target farming equipment. Her masterpiece, though, was a demand for a full-scale environmental impact study. She filed a complaint claiming our fertilizers were contaminating the groundwater. This was a brilliant, evil move. A study like that would cost me tens of thousands of dollars and, more importantly, trigger a mandatory stop on all farming operations until it was done. The harvest was just 6 weeks away. A halt now would mean total ruin. The wheat would rot in the field. But she made a mistake. She underestimated me. I had been preparing for this. I'd set up discrete trail cameras along the property line. I'd been taking my own soil and water samples every 2 weeks and having them independently tested. I kept a log of every letter, every conversation, every threat. When her complaint landed on my desk, I hired the best agricultural lawyer in the state. In court, we presented a mountain of evidence. My independent tests proved our runoff was cleaner than the state required. We showed the judge the log of Delilah's harassment campaign and the fake work order for the boulders. The judge threw out her petition, fined the HOA for filing a malicious claim, and reaffirmed my right to farm. It was a victory, but I knew it wasn't over. A cornered animal is a dangerous one, and I had just backed Delilah Prescott into a corner. The weeks before harvest are the most stressful and the most magical time for a farmer. You're watching a year of hard work ripen into a sea of gold. The wheat was perfect. It was going to be a banner year, the kind of harvest that would not only cover our costs, but finally get us ahead. After months of fighting Delilah, winning this harvest felt like the ultimate victory. The harvest was set to start on a Monday. That Saturday, I did one last walk of the perimeter as the sun went down. The air was calm. A gentle breeze made the wheat sway like an ocean. I went to bed that night feeling a sense of relief for the first time in a long time. The phone rang. At 2:17 a.m., it was my neighbor, an old rancher named Bill. His voice was frantic. "You need to get out here, son. Your field's on fire." My blood ran cold. I threw on my boots and ran outside. The first thing that hit me was the acrid smell of smoke. Then I saw it. The entire western edge of my property, the 3-acre strip right along the back of Golden Meadow Estates, was a wall of flame. I stood there for a second, just paralyzed by the horror. This wasn't a wildfire. This wasn't an accident. The fire was burning in a perfect, straight line. It was arson. She had finally done it. After losing in court, Delilah had taken the final, unthinkable step. She was burning my livelihood to the ground, 2 days before I could bring it in. My mind raced. That 3-acre strip wasn't just land. It was my highest yield section. I had contracts signed based on my projected yield. I was about to default. The penalties would be catastrophic. This was a targeted strike designed to cause maximum financial devastation. I could hear sirens in the distance, but all I could see was that inferno, a roaring monument to one woman's hate. She hadn't just set fire to a field. She had set fire to my family's legacy. Standing there watching it burn, a strange calm washed over me. It was the calm you feel when you've already lost everything. There was nothing I could do. The damage was done. She had won. I just watched the flames. The wind, which had been still all day, was starting to pick up, fanning the fire, pushing it deeper into my field. Each gust felt like another twist of the knife. And then, something happened. Something I will never forget. It was a shift. Not a gradual change, but a sudden, violent reversal. The wind didn't just change direction. It felt like an invisible hand had reached down and spun the weather vane 180 degrees. A powerful gust, hot and smoky, blasted me in the face coming from the east, from inside my own property. The fire, which had been a solid wall moving toward me, just paused. The flames stood up straight for a split second. Then, with a roar, The entire wall of fire turned around. It was no longer moving into my field. It was now a superheated firestorm moving with incredible speed right back where it came from, straight toward the manicured lawns and million-dollar homes of Golden Meadow Estates. Delilah, in her arrogance, had made a fatal mistake. To destroy my harvest, she'd lit the fire along a row of dry, ornamental cypress trees the HOA had planted as a privacy screen. Now, those trees were acting like fuses. The fire hit them and they exploded, one after another, in a chain reaction of flame. The firestorm was now feeding on the very symbols of the HOA's vanity. It leaped from the cypress trees to their wooden privacy fences. It devoured the expensive gazebos and playgrounds they were so proud of. The gentle breeze she'd counted on to push the fire onto my land had betrayed her. It had turned into a vengeful gale, a wind of pure karma, and it was driving an inferno straight for her front door. I just stood there, my face lit up by the approaching destruction, feeling this chilling sense of awe. It was as if the land itself was fighting back. She tried to burn down my family's history, and now a firestorm of her own making was about to erase her present. The sounds changed. The crackle of burning wheat was drowned out by the scream of sirens, all converging on Golden Meadow Estates. The 911 calls weren't about my farm anymore. They were about houses on fire. From where I stood, I had a perfect, terrible view. The backyards of the first row of homes were completely engulfed. I could see the orange glow not just behind the houses, but inside them, as flames shot through windows and vents. People were running from their homes, screaming into the night. And then I saw her, Delilah Prescott. She was standing on the street in her silk pajamas, her face a mask of pure terror. Her home, one of the biggest on the block, was directly in the fire's path. Her perfect lawn was now a staging ground for firefighters. The imported rose bushes she complained my dust was settling on were being trampled into mud. Her eyes were wide, just fixed on the wall of flame. This wasn't a smug tyrant anymore. This was someone watching their entire world being unmade. The arrogance was gone, replaced by raw, primal fear. She was helpless. The fire she had started was now completely out of her control, and it was coming for her. It was the most profound irony I had ever seen. She wanted a barrier between her pristine world and my rustic one, but by burning my field, she had destroyed the natural firebreak that had always protected her neighborhood. My plowed, irrigated land would have stopped a wildfire cold. Instead, she turned that protective barrier into a launchpad. Firefighters fought all night. They saved most of the homes, but not all of them. By dawn, 3 houses were blackened, gutted shells. And one of the homes that suffered the worst damage, its entire back half burned away, and its roof collapsed, belonged to Delilah Prescott. She just stood there as the sun came up, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the wreckage. Her investment was gone. Her perfect world was a disaster zone, all from a fire she lit herself. As the smoke cleared, the investigation began. And this is where Delilah's nightmare really started. While her world was burning, my most important evidence was safe and sound. The fire never reached the trail cameras I had hidden. When the fire investigators and deputies came to take my statement, I didn't just give them my suspicions. I gave them a high-definition video file. The footage was grainy, but it was unmistakable. It showed a figure sneaking along the fence line just after M, dousing the dry wheat with liquid from a canister, and then the bright whoosh of ignition. While you couldn't see the face perfectly, the person's build and the car seen leaving moments later were a match for Delilah and her luxury sedan. Investigators also found the remains of a timer and an accelerant can right where the fire started. The local DA charged her with arson, but this was no ordinary case. My lawyer made a few calls, and soon, federal investigators got involved. They saw this as something far more serious than simple arson. They viewed it as an attack on the food supply, an act of economic sabotage meant to destroy a farm. While the feds built their criminal case, I launched my civil suit against both Delilah and the HOA. Her campaign of harassment was now the clear motive for a federal crime. In court, we laid everything out: the forged work order, the frivolous environmental complaints, the trail camera footage. We brought in agricultural experts, to testify to the exact value of the destroyed crop and the long-term damage to the soil. The HOA tried to claim Delilah was a rogue agent acting alone, but we had the minutes from their meetings and the letters on their official letterhead. We proved that the board hadn't just supported her campaign, they had funded it with the residents' own money. They were complicit. The jury saw it plain as day. The judgment was staggering. The court ordered them to pay a total of $1.2 million. It covered every penny of the lost crop, the voided contracts, and the funds for extensive soil remediation. A huge chunk of it was punitive damages, a punishment for their malicious attack. Delilah Prescott lost everything. Her criminal trial is still pending, but with the federal charges, she's in serious trouble. She's out on bail, a total outcast in the community she once ruled. Her home was a ruin, and when the insurance company found out she was the prime suspect in the arson, they denied her claim. The HOA was forced into a massive special assessment on all the residents, the very people who had applauded her just to pay the judgment. Their perfect community tore itself apart. As for me, the money helps, but it was never just about the money. It was about justice. It was about proving you can't just bully a man and try to destroy his family's legacy. That burned strip of land is slowly coming back. We've worked the soil, and next spring, we'll plant again. The wheat will grow, just like it has for 100 years. From my porch, I can see the new houses being rebuilt over in Golden Meadow. They look the same, but everything is different. The arrogance is gone, replaced by a quiet understanding. My farm isn't an eyesore. It's a neighbor, and it's here to stay. If you have a story about a nightmare HOA or a bully who got what they deserved, share it in the comments below. And if this story hit home for you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories of justice being served. Thanks for watching.